So it's time to review. It's time to think about how we're doing so far and where we're headed next. So bear with me. Please follow this video. We're going to talk about some of the goals for the course again to try to review what we're doing and also set ourselves up for the final project for this class. So let's get going. First off, you'll recall that this is an interdisciplinary course. I know, we've talked about this before, but in your readings, in your postings, in your quizzes, you've been able to touch on a variety of disciplines and you're pulling it all together, right? So, of course, history. We've been talking about history in this class. Religion, whether it's the assignment from Antigone and trying to decide whether the law of the gods overrides the law of man. The religious origins of the gladiator games, right? Theater we've looked at. We've looked at the theater of Athens. We're looking at, I hope you're busy looking at the theater of Shakespeare, right? So what is the role of theater in society? What can we do with theater? And those of you who are theater majors, those of you who have studied a little theater, know that theater can indeed be about just suspending reality and getting us to think about our daily lives through the venue of some other story. Theater can also move people in political ways, social ways, religious ways. Literature. You've been looking at juvenile and the genre of satire. You've been looking at drama as literature. You've been reading secondary sources, experts on Rome, experts on London, and sort of getting this idea of a different kind of literature, if you will, historical literature, analytical literature. Social science. Why do we behave the way we do? This has been something you guys have been talking about, particularly in your postings on gladiator games and modern equivalents. Why do we as a society really get into big arena spectacles, and then why do we seem to be attracted to those spectacles that involve some kind of violence, some kind of danger? So again, this social science element has been coming in as well. So good job. Everybody's really hitting on all cylinders with regard to the interdisciplinarity that you guys are bringing to your discussions. Keep that going in the analysis that you'll be doing on your final project. We've been looking at primary sources written by people of the day that we're investigating. So Sophocles and Antigone, Juvenal and satire, that graffiti at Pompeii, things people are writing up on the walls, Shakespeare. Now, in your Greenblatt essay, he'll give you selections from Shakespeare, so you're not reading the whole play, as we did with Antigone, but that's okay, you're getting little elements, if you will. Newspapers. You've been looking at newspapers in a lot of our controversies, our discussion boards, things about the interest arena. In Mary Ryan's discussion of the American Parade, she's going to be looking at newspaper accounts, newspaper descriptions of parades for her primary sources of what are these parades like, what are they doing, how do they reflect American cities. Other kinds of primary sources, architecture, the Colosseum at Rome, the Globe Theatre in London, archaeology, again, the graffiti at Pompeii, even trying to find Shakespeare's London, that's an archaeological pursuit. So, a little bit of archaeology, a little bit of architecture, primary sources, newspapers, plays, graffiti, primary sources, elements of the people we're actually looking at and comparing ourselves to when we use all of these different methods of investigation. So consider for your final project, what primary sources might you be able to use? Secondary sources. Absolutely tons of secondary sources we've been looking at in this class. We will continue to use, again, the editor for Antigone, Keith Hopkins on gladiators, Greenblatt on Shakespeare, and then Mary Ryan on the American Parade. Again, some of you are pushed even farther into your secondary sources, but these are certainly some that hopefully we're getting into by the time you're seeing this video. Again, if you haven't gotten to Ryan's Parade yet, that's okay. You're on task. Don't worry. We've been doing a lot of analysis in this class. I've seen you do it at the discussion boards. I've seen you do it in your papers. Please keep up the high level that you're working at as the summer goes on. Some of you have been engaged in ethical analysis with regard to Antigone, with regard to the gladiator games, and that's been very interesting. Religious analysis, again, Antigone, gladiators, Shakespeare. There are some concerns in Elizabethan England for the kinds of religious controversies that are going on at the time. As you probably know, we're debating in Elizabethan England between Catholicism and Protestantism, and there are some concerns that those debates become political, much as they do in our own day, but also that there are some moral issues with regard to theater. Will theater cause people to riot? Will theater invite people to uh, illicit behavior, as Greenblatt will say? So there are some interesting things with regard to religion, ethics, morality that our topics have been bringing up. Political theory. Absolutely. What makes a good leader? We've seen that in Antigone. We have seen the politics of theater in the gladiator games. The politics of theater in Shakespeare. How much might the monarchy get involved? How much might local government get involved in what kind of entertainment we're putting forward? Gender issues you've discussed. Social classes you've discussed. Particularly with gender and social classes, where do you get to sit in the theater? What might that mean with regard to these plays? Also, how are different genders depicted? Many of you have been talking about the Ultimate Fight championships, right? UFC. Do we have a lot of women participating? I know we have a few. And what does that say about us, that we want to include women in some of these spectacles? Again, you've been using some psychology in your analysis. We have been talking a little bit about city planning. We'll talk more. And of course, these ideas of morality and entertainment. We have a controversy on our Shakespeare week. Hopefully you're getting into that, about public art in the public garden. So lots of different approaches to analysis. Again, you don't have to do all of these approaches in your final project. Just know that they are available for you. Speaking of your final project, in your final project, we're hoping that just as you've been doing in this class in various ways, discussion boards, quizzes, papers, that you will start to use various disciplines in your own final project, various approaches to analysis: psychological, ethical, historical, economic. We hope that you'll use different avenues of inquiry coming at your final project from various approaches. Rely upon the work you have already done to support the work that you will do. Let me say that again. Rely upon the work you have already done to support the work you will do. In your final project, it is absolutely permissible for you to cut and paste from yourself. If you wind up with a final project that has something to do with big arenas and you've written on the gladiator games, my goodness, use some of those paragraphs if that's helpful to you. Use your discussion posts if that's helpful to you. If you want to write about the role of theater in society, maybe you're going to use the Orpheum Theater as your final project venue. Please use some of the elements, some of the analysis you've done with Shakespeare, with Antigone, to get there. If you are going to do the Keeper of the Plains, maybe that's your approach. We have, in a lot of our videos, discussed the importance of monumental building, monumental architecture. So you've done some work at the discussion boards about connections, about other things. Please steal from yourself. Use the resources at this class to do your final project. You are not expected to go out and do additional research, except that one of the elements of your final project says, hey, go find out how this thing is supported financially. That's a little bit of research that you'll do beyond this class, beyond the course materials we have. So I can't emphasize enough, rely upon the work you've already done. Once you identify that final project, you may find that the work you continue to do for this class will be shaped by the project that you choose to do. We've also been working on goals for the creative spirit. Last time we had one of these reviews, we looked at a couple of those goals. Let's take a look at some of the others as we move forward. So one of the goals for this class is, how does the creative spirit connect and link us together? You've been doing that at the discussion boards. You've been doing that in a very interesting way. You have brought up really interesting elements. I've learned a lot from you guys on how you approach the world, and also you brought in some examples that I never would have thought of. So you are, through those discussion boards, creating in a very creative fashion a connection. There will never be another course like this. I am re-recording this video because I said that in a previous version of this video. This group that has gotten together in the summer of 2015 is a unique group of people, and you have created a link, a bond, with the examples that you bring forward, with the analysis that you offer. Where can we find expressions? Where can we recognize expressions of our creative spirit? The primary sources we've read. The play by Sophocles, Antigone, the graffiti at Pompeii. These are very creative expressions, right? These are, we are recognizing expressions of our creative spirit. The art that shows images of gladiators, the construction, the architectural design of Shakespeare's Globe. All of these things are expressions of creative spirit. You've seen these in these primary sources. I put here the engineering feats of the Romans, whether it's the Colosseum or the aqueducts. These are very creative things. So how has the creative spirit influenced various aspects of society? For some of you, this is a very clear-cut example of the creative spirit. This is a very obvious goal. You've been doing this at discussion boards. So, for example, how might Sophocles' Antigone have led to discussions about leadership in Athens? How might Juvenal have encouraged change in Roman society? How did the crowd in London influence Shakespeare's writing? And vice versa. How did Shakespeare's writing influence crowd behavior in London? Again, Greenblatt is really looking into this idea of how London, the venue of London, actually influenced Shakespeare. We've been looking with Antigone and with the gladiator games on how those events may have influenced the people of those societies. Now Greenblatt's turning that around. How did the city of London influence Shakespeare and his writing? We've already talked a little bit about how Elizabethan leaders, Elizabeth I and others, were a little worried about how Shakespeare might influence the crowd. So how has the creative spirit influenced various aspects of society? Now, down to your final project. Again, reminding you that there's this project, it's 20% of your total course grade. And the idea is here to pull everything together. And we're going to start right away. So it aims to address the creative spirit component of the Newman Studies program. Number one, it aims to have you build on the work you are already doing in this class. So in that regard, it's kind of a comprehensive exam. But it's all take home and it's narrowly focused. You get to choose what you will focus on for your final exam. The first step is due on July 6th via email to me at goldenc@newmanu.edu. It's a final exam or a final project that we're going to do in pieces. You may have noticed that I'm a bit of a control freak. It's true. And I think if you guys can get control of this final project, get control of it early, and maintain control of it, you will be very happy once August rolls around because you will have succeeded quite well. So, let's get going. I'm calling this the Explore assignment. It's worth, I think, oh golly, I can't remember what percentage of your grade, but it's worth a few points on your final project grade. Review the final project assignment in your content folder under projects. That's step one. So go to the content folder at Blackboard, find the final project, find the projects folder in that content folder, and go to final project. Read it. In one paragraph, identify your topic. Again, it might be the Orpheum Theater, it might be the Intrust Arena, it might be the Eiffel Tower, it might be the Statue of Liberty, it might be the Arch in St. Louis, it might be the fountains of Kansas City. Find a topic, find a venue, right, and go with it. Someplace that is city supported, someplace that is community supported. Identify your topic. Identify 3 creative spirit goals you think your topic will help you explore. So go back to those goals, pick 3 that you think will relate nicely to your topic. Now, you may in the long run change those goals. You may decide to go a different route. That's fine. That's absolutely acceptable. But I want to get you going. So identify a topic. Identify those 3 creative spirit goals you think your topic will help you explore, and then turn it in. Turn it in. That's due July 6th.